Hello tanks and tankettes, and welcome to a view replay courtesy of Wolfneed here, and he's in the brand new Clan Wars Reward Premium tank, the KV-4 Kreslavsky. Now this is another KV-4, and it's tempting to think of the KV-4 that we have as the regular tier 8 as being the definitive article, but there never was an actual definitive KV-4. There were instead a whole raft of designs that were basically commissioned by the USSR as a contingency. These were meant as fortress tanks. So if the Germans looked like threatening, I can't even remember where it was exactly. They had some kind of line drawn up on the map, and it was probably ahead of the Ural Mountains where they moved all their industrial capacity. But yeah, basically if the Germans advanced too far, they were going to build a bunch of these things with these 107mm guns, and the guns were actually built, I believe, but the KV-4 itself never was. So like I said, there were a bunch of designs. The regular one we have, at least with the elite configuration, the top turret mated with the hull actually represents two different, bits or two different designs. And this is yet another design. In fact, there's also another one in the game files that has only ever been available for a few people to test so far, the KTTS, which is a fixed casement version. So that's yet another design. So what we have here is basically it's got the same gun, same firepower, but it is different in some ways. It has lower DPS, DPM rather. I can tell I've been talking about warships recently and talking about AA DPS. Anyway, so yes, same gun, but lower damage per minute, and it's quite a substantial amount less. It's something like 200 less, so it's not particularly good for its tier in that regard. However, the gun handling is still quite nice. It's got an extra degree of gun depression. It's got a boatload more ammo. It's something like 40 rounds more ammunition. And as you can see, Wolfneed's got a lot of premium ammo on this. I don't think it actually uses any though. It's also got better horsepower per ton ratio. So, there are some ways in which it's better than the regular KV-4. And I think the gun handling is better as well. The bloom after you fire and the dispersion stats when you're moving around are better also. Armor-wise, it is it's sort of overall less good than the KV-4, but there are bits that are better than the KV-4. I think just looking at the turret overall, it is better than either of the regular KV-4 turrets, and that's because it's got a gun mantlet that covers most of the turret face, despite having 160 versus 180 on the actual turret face armor. The hull has a bit of 180mm armor. Basically the very front of the tank, but the upper front area where there's like vision ports and presumably where the driver and maybe a machine gunner or something sits, that's actually rather weaker. So if somebody's not angling particularly well in this thing, it's fairly easy to pen that bit, just as you could with, even on an unangled KV-4 you could still pen that, but it's going to be easier with this. The side armor is probably the biggest difference overall, though. It's got 125 versus, I think it's still 180 on the KV-4, isn't it? It's like 180 front and side. So it's still, 125 is still pretty solid for a tier 8 heavy tank, but it's not nearly as solid as you get with the regular KV-4. So you won't be able to angle out nearly as far. That is something of a problem with the overall weaker front armor as well. It makes this being better at being hull down than the regular KV-4. And that's exactly what Wolfneed is right now. He's trying to be hull down. However, like I said, it's only one extra degree. It's only like 7 degrees total, so he's still got to expose a fair bit of his tank here. He's also lost a lot of his health. I wouldn't really recommend what he's doing, going to the valley in his top tier heavy tank. But it's kind of worked out in that the enemy team never really contested the town. They've all just blobbed up here, but now they've got to push into this big blob. And on Lakeville, that's not so easy, at least not through the valley side. If they were pushing with a couple more heavy tanks from the other side along the A and B line, it might be a little easier, but as it is, it's medium tanks that are having to do the work over there. And they are getting rather badly punished by some of the tank destroyers. So So he has, I mean, he's taken a boatload of damage, but he's also bounced a lot of damage here as well. The mods record stuff that's gone in the tracks, I think. I'm not quite clear, but at the end it's still going to be quite a lot of damage bounced from his armour. So it's not like his armour wasn't working here, it's just there were so many things shooting at him that quite a lot went through. And I imagine this was one of his first games. When you get a new tank for the first time, yes, you can look at the stats, and you can even go on sites like tanks.gg and maybe get some idea of what it's good at, but there's a lot that only really comes with experience of playing a tank. So quite a fact from the part where he's in the valley, I think just generally speaking, maybe his inexperience with the tank is showing a little bit just because it's a new tank, and it would be the same with most people. They jump into a brand new machine and you're not necessarily going to get the best out of it. So he is, I mean, he's also doing the damage himself despite the low DPM. I suspect he's almost certainly going to have a gun rammer. I mean, that would be the sensible choice. So just over the course of this last 6 minutes, he's been able to more or less peekaboo and just try and expose only his turret, but it's not really worked out that well, and he did take some unwary damage at the start that he really didn't need to. But as it is, I mean, they've demolished all the stuff that's immediately in front of them, but there are still those tank destroyers back there that are a bit of a problem. So it looks like this could well be a win at this stage. He's done over 6,000 damage himself. He's blocked a fair amount. It's actually going to be close to 5,000 damage by the end. Can't remember the exact figure, but it's not that far off what the blocked damage counter shows. It's just the blocked damage counter, I think, counts stuff that goes in the tracks. I'm not exactly sure, like I've said. So it tries a shot on the move, and unfortunately it doesn't connect, but you know, he's already managed to get one HE shell into that guy, so maybe he's done some module damage or something. It'd be nice in World of Tanks if, without having to get a commander skill where you have to hover over a tank for several seconds to see what modules are damaged. It would be nice if you could just, as you do module damage, have it kind of float above the tank as a little icon, as it happens in World of Warships, where you knock out somebody's main turret or their anti-aircraft gun and you can tell exactly what they've done. There's just so many little things in World of Warships it would be nice to see come to World of Tanks, but you know, maybe with time. So they've got the last two tank destroyers holed up here. He's unlikely to get a top gun unless he can somehow manage to kill both of these guys. You never know, it might be possible. He's almost certainly going to get some nice awards out of this, though. So the Centurion, who's been holding the up there at the A line, he now pushes forward because he knows he can safely move up. The Jagdtiger, that was a low roll, but he would have to roll high to have killed the Jagdtiger. So the Centurion gets the Jagdtiger, and well, the Rheinmetall takes the shot, but then of course at this stage there's multiple enemies opposing him, so they just have to finish him off. So there we go. That was all enough for an ace tanker with over 6,500 damage done. He also had a Spartan medal, high caliber, Confederate, and a steel wall. And most of his shots actually hit. 25 hits, or 25 pens, or 25 hits out of 29 shots. I think it doesn't show penetrations on that first screen. That was all enough for 1,700 base XP almost. It was very nearly there. On the enemy team, it was the Jagdtiger 8.8 that did best in terms of damage and score. They were just able to hold up the advancing medium tanks and just lay down those shells, because that thing gets a pretty nice rate of fire. And as for damage blocked, there we go, 4,800, just over 4,800. So yeah, the armor, you can't say the armor didn't hold up. You know, the KV-4 probably would have done maybe even a bit less well, because you'd have to expose yourself that bit more to get the gun down on target, and the turret isn't as tough on the KV-4, at least not against opponents that know what they're doing. I mean, the actual thickness of the armor plate is better, but the gun mantlet just covers less of the front of the turret. So yeah, it looks like, just based on the stats, a fairly nice all-rounder, and the biggest letdown possibly is that DPM figure. So there we go, the not the KTTS, well, that's the other one that we haven't even seen really in game yet. The Kreslavsky. So I would like to have one. I would certainly like to have one myself, just because it's a KV-4, but because it's a Clan Wars reward, the chances of me actually getting my hands on one are really quite remote, unless Wargaming had some massive fit of generosity and just decided to give me one, but I can't see that actually ever happening. So there we are, a look at a new tank that you will start to see around on the battlefield a bit more. So yes, just if you encounter one of these things, shoot the upper front plate if you can. Don't really bother with a turret unless you've got a lot of penetration. Even the little mini turret, not the mini turret, but the commander's cupola, even that is 160mm of sloped armour. So there are a lot of guns at its own tier and lower that will struggle with that, but maybe not so much the high tier guns, I don't know. Anyway, hopefully you have enjoyed this and found it useful and interesting. And if you have, you can leave any comments below. You can hit the like button, you can sub to my channel if you haven't already. And as always, stay tuned for more.